Hello, my name is Kayla Goldman, and today I'm going to be doing my film slash series analysis for the ethnic studies class. I am going to be talking about the show Dear White People. It is a series on Netflix that was based off of a movie written by Justin Simien, and the movie was also written and produced by Justin Simien along with the show. Dear White People is a funny parody of post-racial America that interweaves the classic tale of discovering one's identity and creating an original path, set against the backdrop of a predominantly white Ivy League campus where racial tensions simmer just beneath the surface. The satirical series follows a group of Winchester University students of color as they navigate a diverse landscape of social injustice, cultural bias, political correctness, or a lack thereof, and occasionally misguided activism in the millennial age. Picks up where the critically acclaimed 2014 film of the same name left off. Dear White People, through an absurdist perspective, uses self-deprecation, biting irony, and occasionally brutal honesty to throw a mirror at the problems facing society today. Um, I had picked this television series because it is, in my opinion, extremely relevant to current modern times. I feel the show will give examples of racism issues that have been created in the past but are now still present in new forms in today's day and age. A little bit about the writer and producer of both the movie and the show that I had analyzed. So, Justin Simien is the writer of this series, Dear White People. He is a black gay male living in Los Angeles. He um, grew up in Houston, Texas, with a widowed mother. His father had, I believe, passed away when he was around 6. He graduated from a performing arts high school and then continued his education at Chapman University. Um, Being a gay black male at a highly esteemed Ivy League college came with its own issues to overcome with racism, but he was able to successfully do this and graduate, and now become one of the most well-known black directors and creators in the industry, living in Los Angeles. I feel that he used his own college experience to showcase issues in the show, like having black student unions, showcasing the new age racism and subconscious racism within the black community. So I feel like he was a perfect example and a perfect writer for this series, because he's able to portray what he experienced and what he saw others experience through his own experience at an Ivy League college as a black individual, and not only black, but a black gay individual. The series argument would be that since Dear White People is supposed to incite discourse about racism and race, it may focus more on highlighting structural issues rather than presenting a completely balanced view of all perspectives. Since the show's creator is black, Justin Simien, it focuses on the black characters' points of view and deals with the struggles and microaggressions that they face in a predominantly white environment. This may at times appear as a great focus on white racism and can further reduce other kinds of oppression faced by the black community. One might say that even while the show tries to represent diversity within Black experiences, some elements of Black culture, like class differences or even tension between Blacks, are not always deeply represented, which would result in a more standardized version of Blackness. The show may be too much for certain white viewers who may have had a hard time with the constant commentary on white privilege and consistently accidental racist actions of white characters, thus becoming defensive and rejecting any message. There is a lot of um, I would say like subconscious racism seen from white characters in the show, which in my opinion or point of view is how the show may be too much for certain white viewers because they will have a hard time kind of understanding that the commentary is coming from them, but it is a form of racism while they're not maybe meaning for it to be. Historical experiences of marginalized, underrepresented ethnic groups is seen in this series, Dear White People, within, I believe it's the first or second episode of the first season, if I'm remembering correctly. A satirical event that reveals the problematic nature of cultural appropriation and how white people can so easily diminish the experiences of others. It was a call to have white students dress up as stereotypes of people of color. In short, blackface came to life in the modern day in this episode. Um, It was a college party where the theme was to dress up as a black individual, pretty much, whether it be somebody that was famous, in a positive way or maybe a negative way. The theme was for the overreaching idea for the episode was to show that blackface is still prevalent and still a thing that people do now, and just because you are portraying yourself as maybe a black rapper or a black historian, someone who is doing well for themselves and well for their community, it still may be viewed as a form of racism. Challenging existing stereotypes and assumptions about different ethnic groups. Dear White People actively runs against pre-existing stereotypes about ethnic groups rather than reinforces them, showing nuanced experiences by people of color, especially Black people, and stressing how even the supposedly harmless acts of white people contribute to keeping the stereotypes alive, even if in a passive form of microaggressions. It displays stereotypes while at the same time rebuffing them, with so many characters having different personalities, histories, and points of views that the show resists collapsing Black lives into one singular Black experience. Moreover, subtle microaggressions, typically well-intentioned racist remarks or behaviors often passed off by white people but impacting people of color, are brought forth into view by the television series Dear White People. Confronting viewers with their presence, racial interactions can be explored in great depth because the characters are not simply good or bad according to their color. Even as this angry black man stereotype is critiqued in the show, there are moments when some characters anger or where some characters express anger in ways that might feed into the stereotype. While the series tries to avoid this relationship, it also depicts a white savior narrative, whereby some storylines may be seen to reinforce the image of a white figure coming to rescue or educate Black characters. This is seen in another episode. The show is based on college students, so there's a lot of partying going on in the series. And the white savior aspect is seen in another episode where a fight breaks out at a house where they're having a house party with all of the college students. And it breaks out between friends, but one is white and the other one is Black. And another white friend decides to call the cops to hope and ease tensions, when in reality it ended up being a whole racism issue with the cop coming and pointing a gun at the Black individual and questioning them and not really questioning any of the white people that were involved in this fight. Um, so that is seen as the white savior narrative, whereas this other white student felt he was doing the right thing, kind of saving the day by calling the cops when really he's just kind of he was calling the cops on this maybe angry black man stereotype, which just ultimately resulted in a negative aspect, a negative end outcome of that episode. Issues of power, privilege, and oppression among different ethnic groups in the series Dear White People. In addition to looking in the various experiences of people of color, such as internalized racism and the complexity of intersectionality between race, gender, and sexuality within various ethnic groups, Dear White People deals with issues of power, privilege, and oppression by directly addressing microaggressions, systemic racism, and the complexities of racial identity within predominantly white university settings. The show has Black people in positions of power like the dean of the school, and Troy, which is actually his son, who attends the school as well, who becomes the class president. This showcases them achieving power in a white prevalent school, along with the main character of the show. She shows her power by having a radio show that she runs completely on her own. She's able to kind of say exactly what she wants, and the main point of the show is, Dear White People, this is how you show your subconscious racism or your systemic racism, and I'm going to talk about it pretty much. So that is another um, showcase of power for Black people in this show. Dear White People. Um, Intersectionality is applied in the Netflix series Dear White People to analyze the complex and diverse experiences of oppression that the characters do face. The show highlights how experiences of Black women with regard to racism differ based on skin tone. This could be a form of colorism. For example, Coco believes in working with the system, while Sam faces racism on the outside due to her darker skin tone. The show highlights that the characters face oppression from other quarters than racism. For example, Lionel is a student, which is one of Coco's very good friends in the show. Lionel is a student journalist who navigates his identities as a Black and a new newfound gay. The show discusses white privilege through the dean reprimanding Troy for smoking marijuana and the Holmes Randomization Act that places students in homes at random. Um, Intersectionality is definitely seen in the show due to all of the different backgrounds and histories of each character. There are gay black individuals, there are gay white individuals in the show. There is different skin tones of black individuals in the show, which colorism is 100% seen in that, um, and whatnot. My learning outcome for this assignment was that the story and the divisive issues of Black people face is properly portrayed when it is done by those in the same community. I feel that if the show was written and produced by a white person, and not Justin Simien, especially not Justin Simien, who kind of I feel like wrote this show maybe for him, him himself and others, of course, in his community. But being a black individual in the gay community in an Ivy League college is kind of crazy to think about, and he was able to do that and successfully do it. So this is just his way to show his story and kind of what he experienced, in my opinion. Um, so I feel that if the show was written and produced by a white person, the storyline and the point of the show would not come across in the right perspective. I also learned that the stereotypes are used to create racism, while those using these stereotypes do not view it as a form of racism. This is just a form of like subconscious racism, in my opinion, where people say these things because for them maybe it's normal because the stereotypes are seen to be normalized, when in reality, for Black individuals or people of color, it is just not. These stereotypes are negative, and it is not a way for them to progress. It unfortunately is a way for them to kind of stay back where they're at, with these stereotypes being normalized. And I believe that is it.